Today we're working on the Mazda 3, but first, Harbor Freight had that recall jack stands, and of course all my Harbor Freight jack stands were part of that recall, so picked up these ones on Amazon since Harbor Freight is out of stock. Let's unbox these and get these ready to put the car up in the air. That took a lot longer than expected, but these new jack stands are pretty cool. So the Harbor Freight jack stands have the failing point where when on load, if you accidentally kick this, it would lift up and then it would cause the actual thing to fall down. So when this one's on load, it's pressed down. And when it's pressed down, this doesn't move at all. It's solid, especially with this locking pin thing. Pretty neat. All right, let's put the Mazda up in the air. All right, that was a bit of a workout. If you look under the car, there's not really good spots, like not noticeable spots to jack it up from. So I just used the pinch weld along here to jack up from. This is a perfect spot for jack stands in the front, but in the rear, there's nothing like that. There's a little bar that goes across the rear cross frame something. So that was a perfect spot. I'll get a better shot of it right now, but yeah, it took a bit. Just not really obvious spots to jack it up from. You can see now. And I just jack it up from like where the diff would be if this was rear wheel drive, right at that spot. I use rubber. If you have wood, that's good to use too. All right, the car's up in the air. I guess you don't actually have to jack up the rear since the engine is this side, trans is that side. It's one of those transverse mounted. But it helps getting everything level, especially if you don't have one of those braces that goes across the engine and lifts it from the top, because we're gonna have to disconnect the motor mounts, and the only way I'm gonna be able to support the engine is with a jack. I already made sure my jack is tall enough to get to it, so we're good there. So having it level helps for that. So I'm gonna do stuff in the hood. I'm gonna probably work in the hood area first. All right, under the car, you can see the slave cylinder right there. I just had my dad come out here and press the clutch down, and that just shot fluid out of it. So it's leaking. It poked a hole through the boot of it, and I'm sure the piston inside there needs some love. So I need to order a new one of those, so that's gonna take a little bit for the install time. But we'll go to the top. And the engine mount for the trans and all that is over here. So I gotta take literally everything over here out. So we'll start airbox and get the battery out of the way. All right, got the airbox, the battery out. I'm working on the battery tray right now. There's so many wires. And all these clips are weird clips, not clips that I'm used to. So this is taking a bit, but this is the ECU right here. I gotta get all this stuff with the battery box out of here. Get down here. You can mess with all the wiring and try to get it out of the little brackets, or just go for the main bracket, which is what I did down here. Got freed up a bunch. And then to unplug the ECU, you just put a flathead down there and you work your way out to get the white tab lifted up. And so now I can get the wires out and see what's going on over here. That's hard to see, but that's a bolt. So that's why this isn't coming out. So there's my bolt down there. All right, right now, this is the main engine mount for this passenger side. So as I loosen this, I do it slowly just to be safe. The engine's dropping down, and I don't think there's anything else holding from the trans side to this side of the frame. So I think it's gonna wanna sag like that. I have a jack here. I'm gonna see if this is enough. I'm gonna put another jack on the trans right now just to be safe, and then once this is out, I'll remove the jack I have on the trans and see if my one supporting the engine's enough. All right, the bolt's loose, and I got my trans jack just sitting on the trans. I didn't ratchet around the trans yet because I know I still have a lot of other stuff to do in this area. So I'm just having it there resting. I'm pretty sure I could remove it and it'd be fine, but I just have it there just in case. Doesn't hurt to be cautious. So let's take that out and then we'll see what's next. These, I think they're for some sort of shifter stuff. They're pretty easy to get off. It's just a ball, so you just get a flathead in there and just pop it out. So I'm here on the passenger side, and you can tell that boot is already ripped. The axle, whoa, yep. I didn't even do that, I just looked and yep, there it is. So it needs 2 axles and 2 lower control arm things. Man, what a bummer. So to take the axle out, you gotta remove this ball joint for this lower control arm thing. So there's a bolt with a nut. It goes in the side like this. So stop one side, spin the other side out. It's good to go. And now you just gotta pry this down. And once it gets free, you gotta push it away from the hub. And that is a challenge, not gonna lie. But I'm gonna get it done. So after doing this twice now, I feel like it's pretty difficult to get this lower control arm off without tearing up the boot. I mean, this boot was already torn, so I did it in much better condition than the other one. The other one, even if it wasn't torn, I would have destroyed it when I set it off to the side. But yep, so you just pop it off, you set it to the side, and then you're gonna punch this out. So I'm using a 15 with an extension. I'm just gonna hammer it out, and once it's out all the way, it will just literally just slide out. And then on the passenger side, there's a few brackets for this axle. But other than that, you just kind of punch it out of the transmission. So the starter needs to come off in order to pull the transmission. I think you could just do the wiring, but it's probably easier to do the starter itself. So the bottom bolt's pretty easy to get to. The top bolt, I'm fishing my long handle ratchet with the flex head, with the wobble extension, and I'm just barely able to reach it. It's coming out now, but man, for the life of me, I could not find where the bolt was on the top of here. But I finally got it. And when it comes out, this is what the bottom stud looks like. So it's a stud that goes in, and there's a nut on the top, and of course this one was stripping. But I got it out. Alright, so to do the last transmission mount in the rear, this is the mount right here. It bolts in 3 spots here, and then there's 1 bolt down here. So I think what I'm gonna do is just unbolt from here. I have the jack, 2 jacks, 1 on the engine, 1 on the trans. I just verified that it's a good jacking point, so it should be good. It's still kind of sketchy that you have to do it from under the car. So I'm gonna try to take off probably just these 2 bolts. I'm gonna do this one first and then see what happens. So for that rear transmission mount, here's the 2 bolts that came out. So I ended up having to do both. This is the one that was going just straight up, and this is the one that goes in at the side. You can probably just take out the one on the side, honestly. I believe there's 2 on, this is the side closest to where you sit in the cabin. I think there's 2 that go right up against the exhaust shield. I tried bending the exhaust shield to give me as much room as possible. And I finally broke it loose using the double wrench method. But there's 1, we'll see if there's another. So far, pulling the engine of the trans bolts out. I've come into 3 different sizes. Most of them are this size. This is like the normal size. This is over by the slave cylinder. It actually goes in like on the side where the slave cylinder is, so it's longer, it's obvious. This one is the one I was just doing out
by the exhaust manifold, and it goes from the engine towards the trans. So you can tell it's a little longer. So if you don't know the double wrenching method, it's really useful. You just put one end of the wrench on, usually the box end, and then you take like a standard wrench, not a flex head wrench, it won't work. You have to use like a standard one, and you just put it in, and then you turn it until it kind of locks in place, and then you have extra leverage like that. And you can pick your side, whatever you want to do. Whatever works best for you. It's a good way to get extra leverage when you don't have it. Especially good at like the junkyard or something when you're limited on tools. Alright, all the bolts are off. We got a pry bar right now on where the engine and the trans go up. And you can pry it open now. So I'm just going to do this slowly. Be careful not to scratch anything too bad. And I'm just going to pop the transmission out now. So there's a pretty decent gap going on right now. But it looks like I gotta take off this mount. It's right against the frame and I can't push the trans that way anymore. It's just 3 bolts it seems. Yeah, should be nothing to it. Just take it off and then they'll give me the extra room to just slide it out. It's out. It's just I still have the axles connected because spiders, and I don't want to get too far under the car, even though I had to at some points. Oh, you can smell the clutch. I can see the clutch or the pressure plate now. It's barely, the transmission's barely on the jack. I want to make sure the other side's good. Yeah, I should be able to come out fine. It's like lopsided right now. I don't know if I'm getting it any further. I might be forced to remove the axle. Alright, let's take a look. Alright, I'm giving in. I'm going to take the axles off from the transmission. I'm just going to do it from this spot. But, I mean, I just started tapping it, and it starts coming. I have a little extension that I'm hitting, so it's easier, but it's literally super easy. I'm sure the other side's like that, just the other side, there's not really a good angle to hit it from. Alright, well, I thought I was just tapping out this half, and you can see there's a little gap forming. I was, and then I tugged on it and just pulled the whole thing out, so now this transmission's gonna drop, no problem. Alright, here we go. I should be able to just lower it down. Oh, it's leaking trans fluid from the axle. Even though I still drained it, it was just the little bit that was still on the axle that's stuck. Am I going up or down? I don't remember. Oh, down, okay. Make sure there's nothing connected. Transmission's out. I knew it. Look, this is what's left of the throwout bearing. Oh, holy. The other side's on there. Oh, the arm might be destroyed. Jeez, the throwout bearing. That's the throwout bearing right there. Oh. You can see all the ball bearings everywhere. Wow. So that's why it overextended the piston in the slave cylinder once it exploded. Because it had nothing to stop it. That's wild. I still gotta work on getting this axle out. I've hit it a couple times, it's just not budging. So that's gonna be a pain. So we did it, got the transmission out. I'm gonna leave it like that and just deal with it a different day. Now I have to order parts because stuff went wrong as normal. So we knew the slave cylinder was leaking already, and then today we confirmed that that's where it's leaking from. So it needs a new slave cylinder. Let me bring out this axle. Oh, I got all grease in my hands. That's literally destroyed. This is the passenger side. Driver's side, the boot's ripped too. The bearings, I think, were fine in the axles. It's just the boot's ripped. So I'll have to see if I can just rebuild it, but more than likely, we'll just get a new axle. And this passenger side, I think, only has like this, and that's a different thing. And then in the lower control arm, I'm gonna either get, or more than likely just get new lower control arms. So I'll have to unbolt it from back here. I'll show that if that's what happens. But this boot's actually not as bad as the other one, but it is indeed ripped. There it is, just broke it. Yep, they're completely torn. I'm not exactly sure what would happen if you drove with ripped ball joints like that. If anything, I think the steering would just be loose. It would be fine, but while I already have it apart, now's the time, as if any, to do it.